Greetings and welcome. I'm going to go on and invite you all into the space today. I'm going to do a little bit better with introducing myself because some of these videos are being viewed later. I am LaTanya Taylor, affectionately known as the Rev Coach, the Priestess of Passion, the Juicy Spirit Mama. I like to say the Priestess of Purpose, Pleasure, and Passion, since those are the pillars for Rebirth International. So I'm just going through and inviting my sisters to join me, and I promise to engage you in the comments today. I'm going to go through 5 steps today intentionally to discipline myself on a very hot topic. Male-female relationships are a hot topic as it is. But of course, it's a hot topic depending on what's going on in your life and in your world, particularly in for the men that you are in relationship with, also for the young men that you are raising, the ones that you are giving birth to. So this is definitely a hot topic. Some of you absolutely have sons that you can be proud of. Some of you are in very healthy relationships, or at least you have a healthy lifeline, meaning you have been married for a very long time. Some of you are lesbian and have had no relationship with the masculine for a while, maybe since your father or the moment that you found out that you preferred or was inclined to love women. It still does not erase that even if you are a lesbian, that you have to relate to men. And so how does that show up? For some, it shows up very, very strongly. It shows up as a power tool to be able to relate to men. For others, this is a weakness. It's an area that we get to strengthen. So, if I repeat that later as people come in, just bear with me as we, take on this topic. Again, it can be a very hot topic. So what I want to ask you to do, because as a teacher, my job always is to make you think. Not to give you the answers, but to give you tools to either ignite, activate the answers within you, or go seek the answers in your work. And your work does not look like just reading a book. Some of the best books come with exercises in the back, okay? And again, I just want to invite you to be open. I'm inviting, if you see me setting it up, I'm just inviting our sisters to join us, to come into the space, to have this conversation with us, to go deeper, to look at this in an objective way. Let me do another disclaimer as I prepare to go into this. Am I perfect with the masculine? Absolutely not. In all my femininity, feminine teaching, and all the work that I'm doing, is this perfect for me? Absolutely not. I'm still learning. Hello, everyone that's joining. I've had to learn on the job. And I had a very masculine father. And so I'm doing a disclaimer to let you know the lessons that I have learned from being a young bride and being married with no real guidance. I made a lot of errors when I was 19 years old and got married. I made a lot of errors when I chose another husband that was not a good match for me, even though my spiritual guardians were telling me so. So it's not perfect. And I don't know where we get the idea that learning from other women has to be perfect. It doesn't. And that is what's keeping our guard up. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm going to talk about today 5 ways that we can begin repairing the relationship with the masculine and our men. And so I want to start with number one. Let's just jump right into it. I know there's a lot going on in the universe. This is perfect timing for this particular full moon. I could do a whole teaching on that because there are some alignments with this particular full moon that is a balance between the masculine and the feminine in us. Between the internal and the external, some things that are going to come up. And when I say this, I'm not just talking about for us personally, I'm talking about for what we are seeing happening in the collective, okay? So, number one, let's talk about knowing who you are. Because I'm talking to women who are growing forth in Goddess in this space, you chose to be in this community, Good Girls Gone Goddess, whether you are already on the journey, whether you are curious about the journey, no matter where you are, you chose to be in this space. So I'm going to talk from the assumption that you are growing forth in Goddess, meaning you're on your path, you are discovering some things about your feminine. You are nurturing your feminine. You're taking your relationship with men, with sensuality, with sexuality to the next level of understanding beyond just an infantile understanding of who we are as women. Y'all with me? So that's the context of who I'm talking to and how I'm talking. So number one, knowing who we are. Many of us believe in who we are. So we use terms like queen. We say things like royalty. We talk about, we know who we are. We know who we are based off of our achievements. We may think that who we are is based off of the degree that we have. I'm talking about beyond that, but knowing who we are. But do we really know who we are, or do we believe in who we are? See, belief is the absence of knowing. All belief is the absence of knowledge. And many of us have been conditioned and have been taught to be believers. What do we call people in our faith walk? Most of the time we call them the believers. Oh, he's a believer. Oh, they're a believer. Oh, she's a believer. Oh, I got to choose another believer. But when a woman knows who she is, there is some understanding that there is a secret that has been kept. And when we look at the collective understanding of womanhood, there is a secret that has been kept from women about women, particularly in religion. You have been kept a secret for a reason. Not just black women, but all women have been kept a secret. But the black woman, the so-called black woman, because I don't call us black, because that's a crayon designation. And typically I don't call white women white. That's a crayon designation. But when we start to talk about who we are in lineage, who we are in being indigenous people, then there's a deeper connection in our DNA about who our identity. And so when we are disconnected from who we are, we have to also throw in beyond belief, there's an understanding of lineage. So yes, you can understand lineage in terms of I'm a queen and walk around here and call women queens, but many of us have an issue with women. We have an issue with other women because of us not healing the original relationship with our mother. But not just your biological mother. We have a broken relationship with the cosmic mother. Come on now. We can't just stay on one level. Many of us have a broken relationship, a needy relationship with the biological mother, our biology, not to mention the historical mother, our lineage, but we are disconnected from the cosmic mother. So when I say repair begins with knowing who you are, we must understand that even on this journey, for those of you who say, I know who I am, you've already changed your name. You got a sacred name. You've been through a naming ceremony. You say, I know who I am. It's no doubt about it. But how about you always hear me say there are levels to this thing. You know, Meek Mill say there's levels to this, levels to this, levels to this. Okay, it's the same thing with all spiritual journeys. There is a layer of knowing, and then there's another layer. I'm still discovering who I am. I have sacred names that I don't even speak out loud, that I only go to my altar with. But many of us, we change our name, but we don't change our nature. So I'm talking to the people who say, I already know who I am. I'm priestess such and such. I'm sacred this and that. I'm divine this and that. You know, there's a lot of that consciousness that is going around. And I'm saying that there are that population of us. But even for those of us who have been awakened at the womb level, there is other knowing. There is layers that is still revealing itself to us. And oftentimes we delay the journey of knowing who we really are because we get really arrogant about who we have become. And we get stuck in that identity. And that identity can become a prison. If you're a minister, if you're a reverend, and you can't do this. I can't say that. I can't be this. I can't tell that. I can't do that because I'm a corporate woman. My image won't allow it. My brand won't allow it. You're a businesswoman. And these things start to become a prison. It becomes a prison of identification. And so who are you? Repairing who you are is a journey. It is not a race. And it's not based off of the titles that you give yourself. Oftentimes it's evidenced in the secret lives that we live, the secret desires, what's in your heart, the things that you still have in your heart that may be unmet needs. When you are accomplished in the world, you're significant in the world, but you come home and you are in a sunken place. Or you have a big assignment on your life. When you have a big assignment on your life, you may be called to do many things beyond that assignment. Or to prepare for the next assignment. So when we start talking about repairing the relationship with the masculine, we must look at who we are. How have we defined ourselves? And because many times we have gotten stuck in one definition, and there's an invitation to another definition of who we are. Are y'all all right with that? Repairing who we are, who we think we are. Y'all, can you feel me on that one? How many of you know that who you thought you was just 5 years ago has changed if you've stayed on the journey? If you've not stayed on the journey, you've gone to the same church, you've read the same scripture, you haven't looked outside of yourself, you haven't looked into your lineage, you haven't asked your elders any questions. Okay, moving on to number one. Before I move on to number one, I want to close with number one move on to number two. I want to close number one with this. Who taught you who you are? Who taught you? Who was your model? Because did she know who she was? And it's okay even if you had a good mother who sacrificed for you, who stood on her feet, worked 2 jobs for you. It does not cost you anything except the truth. Did she know who she was? Because if you're having real conversations with your mother, if you're in a position to really assess this thing objectively, she'll tell you the truth. So that's segue number 2. Who modeled? Thank y'all for commenting. I'm going to catch these. Who modeled womanhood or manhood for you? Even if it was a good model. Who modeled womanhood or manhood for you? Even if it was a good model, was it so good that it spoiled you? I'm talking to good girls gone goddess. Oftentimes, good girls have been spoiled by either a person, place, or a thing, usually through their achievement, because we start to be rewarded based off of good behavior. And as long as you be good, then I'll make sure that you have this, you have that. And so we have many women who have had good models of either mother or father or both. And we have learned helplessness. So our relationship with the masculine comes in from a learned helplessness position. Or we know the common talk around daddy issues and mama and you know, I'm a daddy's girl, or absentee fathers and that type of thing. So do we have a resentment for the masculine because he wasn't there? The masculine that we've been told is attached to a man, so the masculine wasn't there. But my question to you, was the masculine there? Who modeled it for you? Because oftentimes I heard little things like, I gotta be your mama and your daddy. And y'all know that for a while we were going to buy cards, Father's Day cards, for our mothers. Particularly if you grew up with a mother and you did not know who your father is or was, or you found out who he was later on in life, or let's just say you have a father, but he was never home, or he was never emotionally available, or he was never accessible to you in a way to groom the other side of yourself. So many of us walk around with a resentment of having to take the lead because we've been craving the model that has been handed down to us by a modern day society, that the man, of course, is the protector and the provider. And so when you've been protected only by your mother and the matriarchs in your family, and when you've been protected only by your own self-protection, and now you have to go out and navigate the world and become and start to achieve and start to behave well and be rewarded by a patriarchal world, because you didn't grow up with a patriarchy figure oftentimes, but you got to go and move into a patriarchal world. The resentment can be super subconscious, unconscious, and unaware. Y'all with me this day? I told y'all this was a hot topic. And the truth of the matter is, I've seen people come on and leave because a lot of women do not want to deal with this. We do not want to deal with it. And that is why oftentimes we are raising boys, we are raising our sons with an effeminate model of how they should show up. And then they don't know how to move and navigate in the world. I want to give an example of what we're talking about. You've heard me say that there's an archetype of womanhood. Of every goddess, there's a goddess archetype, but there's an archetype, and we move in and out of these archetypes during the season of our lives and of our knowing who we are. Because when you know who you are, you can move into the archetype of who you're called to be, or move through the archetype of the season that you're in with greater ease and greater comfort without fighting it. And so you now see Amber Rose with her slut walk, right? And if you know she's in a relationship, I like to use pop culture because sometimes the young women in this group or who watch this video, they may not comment, in this space, but they're watching, they're paying attention. And you see Amber Rose under the banner of feminism having a relationship with this guy, 21 Savage. She had a sign that says Captain Save a Hoe. That was her sign going to her march. And he had a sign that said, I'm a hoe too. But the energy of the pictures, it looked like an emasculated man. And Amber Rose was an exaggeration of the feminine on one side, and now she's exaggerating another side of herself, even in the whore archetype, which is not something to demonize, but nor is the masculine. So let me keep going because I'll start going deeper. I want to give you some more things to consider. Number 3, have you ever really been penetrated without punishment? Have you ever really been penetrated without punishment by the masculine? This is something I want you to consider. I want you to pause. I want you to take that question in, because many of us have never been penetrated without punishment. Trauma is one thing. let me just check in on my signal. Is my signal good? Can somebody comment if I'm coming through? If you can hear me, I should have done that in the beginning. I'm going to keep talking, but can you hear me? Is my sound, my signal coming in okay? I'll wait because I know that there's a delay. Facebook sometimes is always tripping. But have you ever really been penetrated by the masculine? Trauma is one thing. Dogma is another. But intimacy is on a whole nother level. We already defined that intimacy is into me, I see. Intimacy will break you open. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Intimacy will break you open, but it may feel like a breakdown. When you have been a guarded woman, when you have been a self-protected woman, when you have been a woman that has been taught by women who've had to overcompensate both in their feminine and their masculine, many of us have never really been penetrated by a man. And I'm not just talking about penetrated and having your cherry popped, not being a virgin. Many of us are still virginal in being able to relate to a man. And so we learn on the job. Of course, I started off this broadcast with a disclaimer. Because when I remember when I got married, when I was very young, 19 years old, I didn't know. I did not. I just didn't know. Even though I had a very masculine father, and what I mean by that, an alpha male, meaning he did not talk much. He was a provider and a protector. But when my mother and father divorced, it broke my heart. I was daddy's girl, brokenhearted, never had therapy. God was my refuge and my strong tower. I probably would have had a nervous breakdown with my mother, who was on the verge of a nervous breakdown after the divorce. The messages that she sent to me after the divorce made me believe that he didn't love me. I was unlovable. I internalized as an empath all of that. And so the only refuge I had, even from her, was God. I've been called very early on in life. And so that made me entering into a very rigid religion with a lot of rules around the same thing in Christianity. No fornication, no adultery, all that type of thing. So marriage was a natural choice. And how many of you know that many people in churches, mosques all over the world are marrying to have legalized sex? And maybe not even just all over the world, because there are many cultures who still believe in arranged marriages. And they work for some reason. But I can explain that later in the strategy session. But when I got into my marriage the first time, I was clueless. All my anger came. Everything that I could not express to my father because I knew better. I knew not to cross that line with him, came out in my marriage. Everything, all the anger, all of the rage that I held for my father came up towards my husband at the time, in the beginning. And he actually was the one to begin to teach me what that was and how to communicate. Now, the religion taught me some other things as well that were gems, because I was in proximity to older women. Everything you can't read in a book, everything you can't read on Google, but I was groomed by women who were in 20, 30, 40-year marriages. And so I learned so much that my mother didn't have the health at the time to teach me, and my father didn't have the emotional capacity to teach me at the time as well. And many of us are similar. We learn on the job. And so I'm asking you again, number 3, have you ever really been penetrated? Because being penetrated is also the beginning of repairing our relationship with the masculine and the man. And if you are lesbian, I'm not just talking about penetration, because clearly there's penetration in same-sex loving on both sides. But we're talking about a level of intimacy where they're without guards, without protection with the masculine or with the man. I want y'all to stay to the end because you're going to see the beauty of the gem that I'm going to drop at the end. Number 4, are you available to relating with the masculine? Not to the masculine, not for the masculine, not trying to save the masculine, not trying to fix a man that is broken. Are you available to relate with the masculine is what I want you to consider, number 5. Because the beginning of repairing, I was about to say reparations, the beginning of reparations with the masculine is considering how you relate to the masculine. Meaning, consider the answers that you've answered already in 1, 2, and 3. That's number 1. The model. Do you know who you are as a woman in this season of your life? Consider the season of your life that you are in. Because some of us are still using elementary churchianity, learn helplessness ideas to relate to the masculine and to men. And so we're looking for Prince Charming to ride in on a horse and become our ATM machine. Or we're looking for a knight in shining armor to stand for us in places that we have not stood up in our own womanhood. It's no secret that I've been married and divorced. And so as I began to come into the feminine, I began to really revisit my idea of marriage the way that I had held it in the past. And I really looked at how debilitating my ideas were about marriage and my self-righteousness even around marriage and being a wife. I had a real self-righteousness around being a wife, about what the man was supposed to do, gonna do, if he was gonna be with me. And yes, we should have standards. And certainly this is not a pass. This is just a preliminary conversation to deal with energy. Okay? What is your selection process when it comes to the masculine? This is help us to understand relating with the masculine and our men. Is it a need base? Are you relating to the masculine and our men based on your need or perception of need? Is it desire based? Many women who are walking in their feminine and working and growing forth as goddess have a relationship with desire. A strong relationship with desire. But even desire has an expiration date because desires change and desires mature. Or let me throw another one out there. Is it partnership based? Partnership based is another level. It's a game changer in relating with. Because partnership based It overrides a lot of the old mythology around what a man is supposed to do, what a woman is supposed to do. That's why people are jumping in and out, because you can't see. You see a black screen. Very helpful. Anyone else see a black screen? I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that there's technical difficulties on a heavy topic like this. Okay, so it's just Ayana. Okay, good. So the game changer is partnership in terms of working with the masculine is partnership based. How about that? Thank you. Thank you. Is partnership based. That's the game changer. Many of us don't know how to be partners. We have an inferior philosophy or theology when it comes to our relating to the masculine and men, or we become goddesses and we start to have a superior relationship with the masculine and men. And neither are balanced. Even those who proclaim the dark goddess. Did you all see the post that I posted up before I go number 5? It's right underneath the post, this post today, probably. And it's the picture of the clitoris. And what I said on there is that it was a great message probably for someone who doesn't know anything. But when you really know who you are, you catch little subliminals. Little subliminal messages that are taught oftentimes by men or women who have the mind of a man. And the picture was of an elongated clitoris. And it said, all clitorises are really penises. And I immediately caught it. Now, without a second doubt, because I know who I am, point number 1. And I know who I am in biology. And so what I said, it would be better stated that all clitorises are elongated, all penises are elongated clitorises. See, it was reversed, as though from the theology that we come from men. But when you know who you are as the primordial being, the first cause, when you know who you are, even in biology, in medicine, it tells you that all fetuses are female first. That's a spiritual understanding too. We are first cause, but many of us are walking around with a secondary understanding of who we are. And we make selections of our men on that. We interact with our men on that. We show up either in one extreme or the other, all or nothing. We show or we don't show up in our relationship with our men. And I heard a woman say just the other day. She said I had an elder say I had a good father. She said, but that's why I'm not married. My father was so good to me that the standard of I never thought any man could meet up to that standard. So I want you to go back through the steps so you can understand why I just threw that point in for those of you who just came in. Look at it from the beginning. And this is the one that we're going to flip the script in repairing the relationship with the masculine and our men. Number 5, study war no more with the masculine. ... in you. Oftentimes, our program is so deep, so thick, so subconscious and unconscious. When we hear the masculine, we think about male. But the truth of the matter is there are some women who are very masculine. The archetype of goddesses, there are archetypes of goddesses that are warriors. There are archetypes of goddesses that are fighters. And so when you start choosing men, you're looking for a man and you are the man. You have more of that the masculine energy than the male embodied man. Because go back to point number 3, the resentment that we hold for having to take the lead, because who model, back to point number 2, who model for you what it is to be a woman. And so when it comes to being a leader out in the world, when it comes to having to show up, to be the head of your household, let go of these titles, of single. I'm a single parent. Be based off of this modern world. I said this before. I'll say it again. When I heard an elder say, do you know that we have always raised our boys up until a certain age and we turned them over to a man? So, and not necessarily, it's not always his father. It's based on, in the community, in the tribe, who is best matched to take that child's assignment and anointing on his or his life to the next level, or her life. And so when it comes to motherhood, this thing that we start quoting the statistics of the Washington Post and the Huffington Post and and whatever your newspaper is, the New Yorker, Essence, any of them, and we never stop to understand who's writing this, where did this come from, and if it was so out of order, why is it happening? There are a lot of things that are happening out of order, but you can't be God-given. So anyway, let me keep going. Even though there is imbalance in this patriarchy, in this patriarchal world that we're in, that is absolutely dangerous. I don't have to squint. I do have notes. Because of its warlike nature. The patriarchy definitely told us that we had to go hard or go home, that we had to achieve more in order to be, do, and have what it is, work hard. So we're coming out of the age of Pisces that was ruled by the patriarchy. Now, when you hear that age of Pisces, you got to understand that there was another age before that, and another age before that. And so now we are into the age of Aquarius, and the Mayans predicted that everything that we are seeing in the age of Aquarius, which is the return to the Divine Mother. We have to be careful, even as we return to understand matriarchy, that it's not to return to it in the way that it did not help us, because imbalanced matriarchy is just as dangerous. We did to many of the patriarchs in the early age of patriarchy what we see them doing to us now. Y'all get that? We learned this stuff. They learned it from somewhere, and the mother is the first teacher. I'm not saying that the woman is to blame, because there is a history of betrayal of the woman in her leadership of matriarchy that we have to understand. And then it goes deeper. The betrayal goes when there was a balance. See, because every deity has a feminine and a masculine counterpart. When you study ancient Kemet, you didn't have Aset without Asar or Osiris. Every deity had a feminine, and sometimes they had more than one feminine. That's where you get this philosophy of polygamy and multiple wives but the truth of the matter is, it came from women having multiple husbands too. Y'all, don't be hoodwinked when y'all read this stuff. When you gotta go deeper than Facebook before you go amen and stuff and then repeating it as though it's true, because many of us are not doing our work. So we study war no more with the masculine, but in you, many of us are warring with the masculine in ourselves. From point number 1, 2, 3, and 4. We don't really know the feminine. So therefore we war with the masculine. Point number 2, we really who model the feminine or the masculine for us. And so therefore the battle takes place on the inside. So how does that look? What am I talking about? I'm talking about women who have vision. I'm talking about very feminine women who really, you don't really want to work hard. You want to be taken care of. You want somebody to relieve you of the stress and the strain of having to carry the bag all by yourself. Come on now. Y'all know I ain't lying. Y'all know you heard your mama say that. Y'all know you heard people say this. And we start to believe that there's something wrong with us, right? And so then we start to overcompensate, because there are so many women who are lonely or alone. And then we start to wear this band. Well, I'm alone by choice. Nobody's arguing that. We can do that, because when you study the archetypes of the goddess, and I'll be doing a teaching maybe in November on that really soon. Okay. The archetypes. Yes, there are some goddesses who thrive to being alone. Let me check this out. All y'all walking around here talking about Oshun and Aphrodite and Lakshmi. These are sensual goddesses who have many lovers, and they have that many lovers for a reason, because they don't need to have just one man, but they're very careful in their choosing. But how have we been chosen to select? Most of the time it's based off a need or based off of security. We believe that a man is supposed to come in and secure us versus us partnering. Well, the season has shifted. So stop labeling who you are as deficit based, with or without a man. Because if you know who you are, you may have chosen an effeminate man or partner because the feminine is lacking in you. So that man brings in the ability for you to slow down. That man may bring in the ability for you to practice greater self-care. That man may bring in that ability to help you in you going out into the world, not because he's a deficit, but because he's adding value to the assignment on your life. And so this idea that every woman has to have, there are archetypes even for the masculine, and every masculine is not a warrior. Some masculines are some males, I should say. They hold the role as the priest or the monk. Some of them hold the role as a negotiator, and you see these archetypes played out in things like The Godfather, one of my favorite movies. It's an inner gangster in all goddesses. Tell the truth. So when you have a deficit relationship with your womanhood, you have a deficit relationship with men, even if you are same loving identifying. And many of us fight. We fight, and this is why women study war more with each other, because they really are embodying the masculine. And not all them so-called housewives and all that foolishness, and their feminine may have attracted a man to fit that alpha male role, but how many of you are alpha women? I want to hear if you have any questions. Let me see if I wrote any other points. Those are the 5, because when we start talking about this topic, it gets very layered. And I'm looking forward to getting into some strategies, because we want to just start with preparation for the power of the P. You can't access the power of the P, the power of your pussy. You can't access the power of your purpose. You can't access the power of pleasure. You can't access the power of passion if you are disconnected from your relationship with patriarchy, or your relationship with the masculine or men. And that is why sometimes we find ourselves seeking to be in relationship even when we have a man in the house, because we might know how to attract a man. That's not an issue for many of us. You're beautiful women. You're powerful women. And many executive women are too arrogant to have this conversation. And arrogance is also very much one of the more masculine energies. Y'all know men can be and men in particular you can't tell them anything. And if you tell them, you tell them in a certain way. Get a chance, if you can, check out, if you have any questions or any comments from what you've heard today, please drop them in here. When you can, go back and look at the Iyanla Fix My Life. When we were watching the show with her, she was tweeting, she asked us to tweet. One of the things that stood out was the guy Turk of Cash Money Records had attracted, and he went away to do some time. I shouldn't say of Cash Money, of Hot Boys. He was with Cash Money though early on, and the sister was so beautiful. That woman had had a double mastectomy and a hysterectomy, and all of it was very much a mind-body relationship to what she was experiencing in that relationship. I really want to appeal to you all that don't take this topic lightly, because this kind of thing shows up in our health, in our womb. And it shows up in the kind of men that we birth. And I'm going to finish this point about Turk, but she said to Turk's wife, I can't remember her name, because there was so much chatter during, you get a room full of ministers, coaches, priestesses, and all of this, watching something with, the great mother herself. There's always going to be some chatter, so I missed some parts of it, but not this part. She said that men think the truth, and sometimes they think their truth is the only truth, but women feel the truth. And she said when it comes to communicating with men and even correcting them, we don't do it with our mouth, because we invite war. And that nugget for me as a Gemini was a healthy reminder. For me as a coach, a counselor, a psychology educator, we talk about everything. So I'm saying, even for me, thank God for the elders, because the first thing that women want to do is sit down and talk about it. And what I'm going to share with you all in this monthly masterclass is the things that have shifted my whole house. Many of us don't go to the altar. We're spiritually lazy. We're spiritually lazy, but we pray for strong men. We pray to birth strong men in the world, but we're spiritually lazy. We're still waiting for a savior to be rescued. That savior dogma extends deep into our relationships, male-female relationships, female-female relationships, and men amongst themselves. Do you know that the work that I do, women are supposed to learn certain things from other women? Many of you will run to a Woman Thou Art Loose conference, but you will not do the work to stay loosed. If you got loose through TD Jakes, you have to go and do the work. And that's a secret place. This is why the womb is on the inside. It's not on Facebook. There's certain things that cannot be taught. And this is why I'm doing more work with women in person in workshops. And I'm so excited about those of you who are coming into town day after tomorrow. We have to be able to get into safe spaces to learn ancient wisdom and secrets without assuming I know everything. I'm still learning. What am I learning? How to prepare herbs, how to prepare to become the medicine woman in my house. I wasn't ready for that yet. And I wasn't ready for that at the beginning of my journey. First, I had to reposition of how I thought of myself as a woman, how I communicated with the womb. Many of you, your womb is speaking to you, but you cover it over with Advil and Aleve. Your womb is speaking to you, but you haven't looked at your womb and at the entrance of your womb gate. Many of you are still calling your anatomy by the wrong names and teaching your girls to do the same. But many pop culture kids respond to these names that rappers assign to them. Not to mention the last time you had an orgasm, because we haven't been penetrated. And so we believe in dogma that's being taught that many women cannot have vaginal orgasms. Bullshit. I could go, y'all know I could keep on going, and we will. So next week at the same time, we're going to go deeper this month in the the series, the Power of the P series, the monthly masterclass. We're going to take what we're unpacking here and evoke strategy. It is not enough to just have awareness and not have something that you can apply in your life. These monthly master series meet you where you are and move you to where you want to be, no matter where you started the journey. This is a great way for women who have already started the feminine journey to maintain it. Oftentimes we get information and we go away and isolate. I cannot tell you how many women who have even gone through the rites of passage process with me or even with another woman, whether it be health centered, whether it be spirituality, physical health, and exercise. And why is it that we do not hold it? Why don't we hold the nuggets of the information that we've gotten? It is because it is just like going to church. You have to reinforce what you have learned with a practice, with a strategy. And sometimes when you are in a new season of your life, a new strategy is required. And your marriage goes through season. Your mating goes through season. Your attraction power goes through seasons. Please join. Not please. I ain't begging you to do nothing. We're good in there with what we're getting. The power of the P prayer last month was awesome. You'll get access to the library. We did with prosperity the first month. And so now we're going into this power of the P, because we can't access the power of pussy without understanding what the sacred of that is. So go to bit.ly/MyGspot, where women are growing forth in goddesses. Thank you so much for joining. This definitely was more of a teaching. And so I look forward to having a debrief with you. I am still doing, I wanted to close out on this. I wanted to say this. Another thing that has helped so much is knowing my own astrological chart. Back to point number 1. So if you are interested in having your natal chart read from the perspective of the goddess and the feminine, to know where your feminine strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities are based off of your natal chart, please schedule. I'm offering a special for 111, where normally I do the chart and your life path, and of course these sessions are channeled as well, and you'll get a chance to see how to select, why you communicate the way you communicate or don't. and basically, if you have a lot of other masculine stuff going on in your chart. So I've enjoyed sharing with you today. This is going to be a busy few days for us, but I look forward to sharing with you on the other sides. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Ciao.